Hello everyone and welcome to another DCS module review where this time we're going to be taking a look at the Mi-24 Hind. There's not particularly any logic to the order that I'm doing these in, so don't worry, other aircraft will come around. I'm planning to review every aircraft that I have, so don't worry if you've requested a particular aircraft, it is coming. As normal today I'll be breaking this down into the kind of look and feel how the aircraft is as a digital museum piece, and then looking at how competitive it is in sort of multiplayer environments where you can have fun with this. Otherwise, let's jump into the review. So in terms of the look of the module, it looks pretty good. It's not really there competing with some of the more modern entries in terms of the actual detail level, and particularly the resolution on some of the textures is a little bit more towards the MiG-21 side of things rather than some modern offerings. Honestly, it doesn't bother me at all. It looks good, especially if you're not like this. If you zoom right in, you can definitely kind of see that some of the textures aren't too wonderful. But if you're looking at it normally, everything looks perfect. Even in VR, everything looks really, really good. And nicely, we do have a lovely pilot model here. I normally don't play with the pilot model on, mostly because it gets in the way of some of the controls on the left-hand side. I mean, the pilot model looks really good, and the detail on the pilot model, it's got this little notepad, is amazing that it's got there. Textures look great. Also love the little details that we've got inside the cockpit. In particular, the wonderful fan here. If I just turn it off, you can see it lovely, slowly spirals down. You can see when the fan's off, it bounces around, it has little physics assigned to it. It'll only do that when the engine's running from the vibrations. And it slowly spins up, looks really, really cool there. We also have the other seat here, the CPG seat. Again, nice full pilot model. My head's in a bit of a weird place, which is why it's acting up a bit. And again, looks really, really nice. You know, maybe not the highest fidelity, but looks good, runs really well as well. I think this is a really nice balance in terms of the resolution of the textures and its playability. Thankfully didn't crash into the Mercedes-Benz building there, because I do have an AI, which is a little bit unpredictable. And externally, honestly, this thing looks gorgeous. I've got absolutely no complaints about this. I mean, the detail on the little nav light at the back is really nice. The rivet detail is really, really good. You've got a whole load of liveries by default that you can put this thing in. Animations-wise, this also looks really nice. Here we've got lowering the gear, beautifully smooth, actually really smoother than some fixed-wing aircraft that I've seen. It's a lovely little animation that they've got there. Sound-wise, it's good. It's noisy as all hell, as you would expect. You certainly do get a really good impression of how large and powerful the engines are, especially on that external view. You can hear the rotors changing pitch as they change their flight conditions. When you start pulling a bit too much, you can hear them start to struggle, which is really nice feedback there. And yeah, externally you can definitely hear this thing. I'm going to have to lower the volume on the edit, because I can't hear myself speak right now over the sound of this thing. In terms of how accurately it flies compared to the real thing, I have not flown a Hind, so I can't speak too much, but it definitely feels well modelled. You feel like you're flying this really big, large thing that's kind of between a helicopter and an aircraft. We'll come on to that a little bit later, but it certainly feels nicely modelled here. So in terms of just having this thing from the point of view of a digital museum piece, I think it's absolutely excellent. If you are a fan of this helicopter in real life and you just want to have what is honestly the best representation of this that is available today, then yeah, the DCS Hind is awesome. Next, I wanted to talk about how easy this module is to pick up, because out of the helicopters, it is honestly the one that I struggle the most actually flying, because it kind of doesn't fly like a helicopter. The Hind is really designed for speed, and at speed it is wonderfully smooth. You can get this perfectly trimmed out so that you can be completely hands-off, and it can outpace pretty much every other helicopter in DCS, but at low speeds this thing is a right bastard to try and fly. It does not want to hover. You can certainly get it into a hover, but it is a challenge getting it into a hover, especially transitioning from flight into the hover. That is really quite hard to do successfully. I have had this module for a very long time. I'm still not good at that. Equally, this means takeoff and landing on this thing is really quite hard, especially compared to other helicopters. The hip and the hui, you can take those off, land those down, up and down really quite quickly, easily. They feel light and nippy. The Hind, especially when you're new to it, feels like it's actively trying to kill you at all times. And the flight model has all sorts of quirks. As far as I'm aware, these are realistic quirks. In particular, if you go too fast, you end up with a rotor tip stall, which has the effect of turning you upside down at high speeds, which is really bad for a helicopter. So actually flying this thing is quite a challenge. On the flip side, weapons employment is actually really quite straightforward. Even with an AI gunner, the main tool of the Hind is its guided missiles, and these are pretty easy to set up. Once all of the weapons have been armed, all you do is essentially point Petrovic in a direction. He will take a few seconds and then he will find a list of things in that direction. You tell him what to fire at, and then it's just a case of keeping steady, putting the crosshair on target, and he'll hit it if you can manage to keep him stable. Trick is getting used to keeping him stable, but in terms of actually the control system to get weapons off, it's really quick. And then flipping over to rockets and guns is absolutely easy. Use a rotary to select what weapon you have. Very easy to bind that up to HOTAS controls. Then you just click and then pull the trigger and boom, you're firing machine gun, firing cannon, or laying down an ungodly amount of rockets. So it's a bit of an interesting balance that really the challenge with the Hind is getting it in the air and getting it down safely. The actual combat part is quite easy and intuitive. Next up, I wanted to talk about the competitiveness of this module. What kind of settings can you bring it out in? Does it fit in? And the nice thing is, this thing fits in almost every setting. The really, really nice thing about the Hind is it is both a troop transport and an attack helicopter all rolled into one, and it does really decently at both of those roles. Now for the troop transport side, it does really depend on what kind of server you're playing in, how detailed their logistics system is, but normally the Hind can take quite a few troops or vehicles or whatever you have, normally not as much as dedicated transport such as the Mi-8, but it can still absolutely fill those roles, and it being so fast is quite good at doing that. So even on modern settings, you find this Hind in those, no problem at all. And even on those more modern settings, it can defend itself. The Hind has the ability to equip R60M missiles. Those are all-aspect missiles, or semi-all-aspect. Really manoeuvrable, and so you can absolutely give aircraft a nice surprise there on the more modern settings. Again, it's not as competitive there. You are going to be hunted down a lot, but it can still hold its own weight on those, while at the same time it's absolutely capable of doing ground attack even on those more modern settings. Because of its guided missiles, it can attack most targets. Doesn't quite have the ability to put out huge amounts of damage as, say, the Black Shark does, but definitely holds its own there. And then in earlier settings, if you are a fan of playing sort of Cold War era, it fits in really, really nicely and is really a dominant helicopter in that era. It has these tracked missiles. They're not as good as things like Hellfires with some kind of auto track or laser. These are manually tracked by the co-pilot, but as long as you keep it steady, Petrovic does a really good job at putting missiles on targets. And you can take rockets as well, which do a lot of damage, and the cannon on this thing is really quite potent. You can poke holes in even kind of medium armoured vehicles with this, and it's really quite accurate as well. And so on a lot of servers, this is the thing that does the work. This tears up front lines, this delivers troops and supplies. It fits in all over the place. Now, I have mentioned it a couple of times, but this module does come with an AI in the form of Petrovic. Petrovic can take over for the pilot or the gunner. Most of the time you're going to be wanting to play Petrovic as the gunner. He's okay as a pilot, but it's just a bit of a pain getting anywhere you want to. Mostly he's there as a kind of a support if you're wanting to take the role of the gunner. Mostly though, you're going to be using him to shoot things, and Petrovic is decent. I'd say he's not quite as advanced as the George AI is in things like the Apache, but he's really quite good. He does have some issues with being selectively blind. Sometimes he will be able to spot targets a huge distance out. Other times you'll be staring right at something that is shooting you at that very moment and he won't be able to see it. So a little bit inconsistent, but most of the time he does see things. He does take a while to spot things. I think this is because it is trying to model him trying to look through the sights, which isn't the easiest thing to use to identify targets, so it does take him a while. And yeah, there have been plenty of occasions where I've been swearing at Petrovic to just find the tank already. But because for the most part all you're asking him to do is look at target and kill target, it is really quite simple to use him. And I definitely haven't found myself being as frustrated with him as I have been with the AI in some other modules such as Jester for the Tomcat or the F4, which is mostly because Jester has to do a lot more complicated things. Petrovic here has a relatively easy job. And while I was putting this video together, the DCS dropped a patch for the Hind updating a load of systems, including Petrovic, who now gets a nice little interaction wheel, very similar to what George has. I've not had too much time to play around with this, but it seems really useful, giving you some more options as to what you can get Petrovic to do. And if nothing else, it's really nice to see that this module is still getting lots of love 5 years after exiting early access. Now, I have had a request to also discuss single-player aspects in these, and so I'll bring up what I can here. I, as you can probably tell from the channel, more of a multiplayer-focused player of DCS, but I do absolutely like single-player from time to time. Problem is here we do have a little bit of a lack, most notably in terms of the missions that come with the module. There aren't any. Mi-24 should be here. There are instant actions available for the Mi-24, but there aren't a lot of them. Most are a series of free flight. You look at Germany, we've got cold start, bunch of hot starts and free flights, none on the Marianas. Nevada is takeoff and landing, understandably none on Normandy. Persian Gulf, we've got 2 free flights and a actual mission. Sinai, 1 ground strike. Syria starts to have a few more, but on the whole there just isn't that much, even in terms of instant action. You do get a campaign by default, the Revanche campaign here. I've not tried this one, so I can't comment. There are 3 campaigns available on the online store for this, including one that has come out very recently. And so you can get a little bit of content there, but not a lot compared to a lot of other modules. There is a whole suite of training missions, and I did use these to learn how to use the Hind. They're absolutely workable. They tell you what you need to know and give you some nice good practice in both the pilot and the CPG seat. So if you like learning with these in-game training missions, you've certainly got a bunch there by default. But otherwise, maybe a little bit light on the single-player side of things. So then lastly, time to try and sum this up with a kind of recommendation here. And here I'll really clarify things by it depends on what you are looking for out of a module. The Hind is not something that is easy to pick up and play, mostly because it is a struggle to actually get in the air and fly stably and not VRS yourself to death all the time. So it maybe isn't the best first helicopter module to get, maybe worth getting something that's a little easier to fly to get used to the controls of a helicopter, and then kind of migrating to the Hind at a later stage once you've got the basics down. On the other hand, in terms of teaching you how to properly fly helicopters and be aware of things such as your airspeed, your descent rate, avoiding VRS, the Hind is a good teacher, just a pretty brutal teacher. And on the flip side to that, there is an argument for having the Hind as your first helicopter in that it can kind of do everything. You can do your troop transport logistics missions, you can do ground attack missions, it can defend itself in air-to-air combat, it can hunt down other helicopters absolutely happily. It doesn't particularly do any of those as well as the more specialised aircraft. The Black Shark has it beat on air-to-ground attacks, the Mi-8 has it beat on pure logistics, the Gazelle and its sneaky little Mistrals has it beat in air-to-air, but it kind of does a bit of everything there. And also the fact that you can take this out on an early Cold War server and it fits in, you can take it out late Cold War, you can take this out on modern servers, it just fits into everything, is a really nice option to have. I've probably put in more time on the Hind than any other helicopter, and the reason is just because it can do a little bit of everything. On top of that, you can't argue this is one of the, if not the most iconic helicopter in the world. And it is fun flying in and taking what amounts to a battle bus into combat. So yeah, I love this one, really enjoy my time with it. It has made me a better pilot learning how to use this, but it's not for the faint-hearted. It does take a lot of getting used to. So yeah, those are my thoughts on the Hind. Please let me know down below what you thought of this. If you agree, if you've got a different opinion, let me know. And if there is any module you'd like me to review, please do let me know down below. I am reading all of these comments and taking them on board. And I do believe the next one that I'll be reviewing will be the F5. Otherwise, I've got several review videos out now, should be linked to at the end here. And otherwise, until next time, remember to be kind to yourselves and everyone else. Cheers.